there because they want to win.
And that's what people remember.
And it was just such a beautiful thing for the season.
If GW football had a program right now.
3 very strange words. Offensive line.
Less hits, less earned runs, less runs.
Give me an NFL contract, and I'll play 2 extra.
We'll call it hazard pay.
If anyone can spark them, it might be their coach, Mike Singletary.
It's kind of a pillow fight.
It's not going to be the end of the league because all the players are dead.
The show is also unstoppable because we've still got another segment left. You, unstoppable. You, stoppable today, which is, of course, the opposite of unstoppable.
Who's ready to play?
Good morning, good afternoon, good middle of the night. This is Unstoppable here on GWTV, coming to you from the 5th floor of the School of Media and Public Affairs here at the George Washington University. Here with Unstoppable regulars Austin and Andrew, and we are headed towards the end of another school year and another year of Unstoppable, but we're still rolling on talking sports. Today it's NBA, the NCAA tournament, controversy in sports, Major League Baseball, and of course GW basketball, followed by rapid fire. To start off the show today, we're talking the NBA. The Sacramento Kings are looking very close to a move to the Los Angeles area, specifically to Anaheim. Is the third team in the LA area a good idea? Andrew?
I mean, the way they're looking at it, all right, there's an arena there. There's huge, population, fan base. LA doesn't have a football team. You got to remember that. In every major city, that's the main focus on sports. I think they can extend. With how big, Los Angeles extends out. They have already another hockey team out in Anaheim. It's almost a second city. So I think eventually, this is going to happen. You see, major cities are going to keep growing. I think cities will get their teams. New York, the Nets will move to Brooklyn, but. I think this move can work. It's a move that I don't feel like they want to move or look out to other cities and know that you might not get there. They might have the attendance issues they had in Sacramento.
There's no way there's no way that you can believe what you're saying right now because they already have 2 teams and one of them is a second-class team in the Los Angeles Clippers. You're going to move them from the state capital to Los Angeles, where the Lakers rule the town, hands down. That is it. All right, we're going to put them in another arena, so you have 2 arenas in Los Angeles. I think it's.
There's already 2 arenas there.
Right, but they both play at the Staples Center.
Well, okay.
Okay, but my point is that if it's a solution to fix a franchise that's losing money, a franchise that's been bad for a while, I don't think this is it. If you want, move them to the San Diego area, move them to an area that is not the exact area where 2 other teams are, including the best team in the NBA. The Sacramento Kings have great owners and they have a great fan base, and I just don't think that there's any particular reason to move a team when, to an area that you said they have a football team, so apparently 3 basketball teams equals 1 football team.
So they've had a huge problem attracting fans the last couple of years, though.
Because they've been bad. They've been terrible.
Right, they have, but they've been leaking a lot of money. And so the Maloof.
Listen, you want to move, that's fine, because the Nets have been leaking money for since Jason Kidd left, and they're moving to Brooklyn. They've been having these aspirations for a long time. You want to move them, that's fine, but move them to a different place. Don't move them into the Los Angeles area where the market is already oversaturated.
Do you think the Lakers and Clippers will actually oppose it when it comes to the owners and they're having to vote on it?
No, because at the same time, it just keeps bringing more revenue to the area.
There's a risk wherever they're going to move. There's already this established fan base. Yes, they have other teams, in the area, but it's such a large population. They think they can get this draw. If they move somewhere else, they might have lower attendance, the first few years,
You got 2 hockey teams, you got 2 MLS teams, 3 basketball teams.
And you have one of the largest cities in the world.
Seattle needs a team.
Oh, jeez.
Moving to Seattle.
Moving to Seattle?
I'm sorry.
Wow.
They can. I understand moving to
Las
Vegas, wherever they're going to move, Seattle. There are different other choices, but I think that it's just the same amount of risk. And they move here, they know that they will get people to go to this game to see the Los Angeles Royals. I think
the Anaheim Royals.
The Anaheim Royals. LA basketball.
The Los Angeles Royals of Anaheim
does not. We have these fans that are seeing the Clippers already. Who's going to go see this team? Who's going to have an allegiance to this team?
All right. The NBA, we saw a lot of big midseason deals this year. A lot of guys changing hands. A few blockbusters. Was the best mid-season acquisition Danilo Gallinari? But who do you think was the best midseason deal?
I think that it was Denver acquiring all those pieces. And at the time, I thought, why do they want Timothy Mozgov? Why do they want these Raymond Felton for Chauncey Billups? And you see it in their play. They are 10 deep. they can go out there, and they haven't lost at home since they traded Carmelo Anthony. You could see him in New York. He's a ball stopper. Now they have guys like J.R. Smith. Everyone is contributing about 15 points a game. Al Harrington's come back alive.
Become a deep, even team.
I really think that they're a team.
The Nuggets got J.R. Smith in this trade.
No, but J.R. Smith now has the shots, the playing time, the confidence that Carmelo Anthony swallows.
What do you think?
All right, I mean, good move, but I like what Portland did bringing in Gerald Wallace. I mean, he's putting up 15 points per game, 8 rebounds. He just had a 40-point game. And when Greg Oden went down, they need a bigger guy to step up, especially how injury-prone they are. And out in the West, they need to survive in the middle of the pack to get into the playoffs.
Okay. I think those are both good things. I think it would have been really hard to say Denver when the trade first happened. I think everybody just said, okay, Denver's going to be rebuilding for a while. Well, it turns out they actually made some great moves. So I think that was a good thing to point out. I do like the Gerald Wallace move. I thought that was. I couldn't believe the Bobcats let go of him for so little. So I do think that was a good move as well. In terms of a third team in the LA area, you make the correct point. They don't have a football team. They might be able to support it, and they've had a lot of success in LA with all these other sports teams they have. But I think you hit it on the head that there's other places that they could go to that make more sense even than that area, and that area can't handle more, and specifically because you're looking at the Lakers and Clippers, and the Clippers are second class, as you mentioned. So the first segment goes to Austin. Headed to the second segment, the NCAA tournament. It is now April, but we're still talking about March Madness. Who's been the MVP of the NCAA tournament so far?
Kemba, all the way right now. I mean, the points he's putting up, he leads that team, controls that team, and Calhoun says it, that he's his man, that he always goes to it. He's the only one in double figures in that team. He's playing 40 minutes a game, and he is the man who's going to make the shots. And you just see throughout this tournament how they have relied on him to make those big shots, to lead the team, and I don't think you can argue with what he's doing.
Kemba Walker is an easy choice.
Kemba Walker.
Thank you, Chris. But I was torn between Brandon Knight and Matt Heyward, but in the end, I think I'm going to go with Brandon Knight. And the reason for that is because besides the fact that he had the game-winning shot, the team is all freshmen. And, the team is still very young, and the ball's in his hand at the end. And there are other talented players in the team, yet he is the one that Calipari is trusting, putting the ball in his hands when the game's on the line. They're in the Final Four. I think this team is more of a college basketball team than last year's team. John Wall and Cousins were like
pros.
I feel like they're 30 years old.
Yes, exactly.
These guys are actual kids, and you're seeing it coming through right now.
They're freshmen.
Kemba Walker shooting 25 shots a game. Brandon Knight has to compete with the other guys who want the attention, and he is really stepping up for this team in ways that Calipari probably never thought he would.
What about a guy like Matt Heyward at Butler? He's been incredibly valuable to his team.
Well, I think Matt Heyward. I mean, he made the game-winning shot against Old Dominion, an incredibly smart
play. He seems like he's always clutch at the end of the game.
But at the same time, Shelvin Mack has been such an important part of that team, and I think that, he's the kind of guard play that you need in the tournament. Matt Heyward is a very smart player who won't be, he knows this is the end of the road for him. I think Knight is the most valuable player.
Coaching-wise with Heyward, with VCU and Butler, you can see that they are set. They know what to do, each of those players.
And that's one that,
they're extremely well coached. More than, UConn is extremely well coached, but just this one Kemba is their entire weapon. They have other guys, big guys inside who are good on defense to make sure that they score less. We give the ball to Kemba, and we make sure that he leads this team. There are a lot of other good players at Kentucky around him. I just feel like as the MVP in the tournament, it's the biggest, most valuable you are to your team. Okay. And how he's leading this.
I was going to say, but Josh Harrelson's also been talked about as a guy that could be like the man of the tournament at this point, the most valuable player. Does that help or hinder other Kentucky players who have also played very well?
I think having having a guy like him on the team definitely impacts the way that Brandon Knight is able to operate around the top of the key. But I'm a big proponent. Listen, Kemba Walker and Knight are both having the ball in their hands at the end of the game. It's really a toss-up at this point. So. All
right. Speaking of Kemba Walker, there's a lot of talk, that he's the best player in college basketball at the moment. Is he going to be an immediate star on an NBA team, though?
I don't think he'll be an immediate star. He will be a good player. He will be, John Wall came in, and he's had his up and down this season. It's really hard for you to go and just be an impact player in the NBA.
On a bad team if you're a high pick.
But Kemba, he's got the skills, but remember, he's like I said, he is their player, controls the ball most of the time. He's going to have to learn in the NBA how to play with a team off the ball. That's one of the big problems Evan Turner had this year, because he was the man at Ohio State taking all the shots.
Yeah.
When he got to the NBA, had to learn how to work with a different system and not be the one taking all the shots. So,
for the people that like Jimmer,
I was going to say, better or worse than Jimmer?
he is better. He is much better. A team like the Bobcats would love to have him. I think he's a floor general. I think that he is the kind of guy that you could put you could put in. And I remember watching Darren Williams a few years ago, or not many years ago now at Illinois, and thinking like he wasn't that good. I don't know why people love him so much. And then when he went to the NBA, he did what he did. And I think Kemba has that same ability to create shots for himself, distribute the ball. And when you have to play on a team like Stephen Curry did and do everything, when you get to the NBA, you kind of see they're more mature. They're ready. You know, this guy's been playing for Kentucky for many years, and I think he's ready to be a good contributor when he gets to the NBA.
I think, because the second half of the segment was even spent on that particular player, it was an easy choice picking Kemba Walker, and I do think he has been the MVP of the tournament so far. He's backed up his incredible Big East tournament performance with a solid tournament. Will he be an immediate star? I think you make the correct point that he's going to have to deal with playing with other players. And you gave up ground on that first part by just admitting it was a toss-up. So don't do that. And it's 1-1 to head into controversies in sports. There was a recent controversy where Jalen Rose, in the publicity before and then during the Fab Five documentary on ESPN, Jalen Rose said that Duke had always actively recruited, when recruiting black players, Uncle Toms. Do we think that's offensive? Were you offended by those comments by Jalen Rose?
I mean, he shouldn't have said it. Get down to it. I was offended by the fact that he shouldn't have said it. Like, I like what Elton Brand said. He was a black player, played at Duke, and said it was very ignorant and said, but he was dealing with it when he was a 17-year-old. So it's just a different mindset. I think though what's strange about this is that it was understandable what he said, and the fact that when we see Duke, you just feel like there's maybe a little bias, not the fact that they traditionally have whiter players or have more white players playing them than other high-level BCS teams, and it's just a thing you think about. But I don't think it's necessarily true at all, and I think it was an ignorant statement. He shouldn't have said it.
What do you think? Were you offended by it?
No. He clearly said on several different interviews, I felt that when I was 18 years old. I don't feel that way now that I'm a mature adult, but back then I did, and I said it in the documentary in the context of the situation that I was in. But the media loves to take that little phrase, Uncle Tom, and just say, Jalen Rose, Uncle Tom, that's it. How does Grant Hill feel about it? How does Elton Brand feel about it? Give me a break. Come on. I mean, he made this
how do Elton Brand feel about it?
He made this documentary to show that side of his life. That part of his life is over. Now he's talking about it in an objective way. I think that the media blew this completely out of proportion. He said, I probably shouldn't have said it.
Isn't it still a huge smack at those players, though?
Oh, absolutely, but it's listen.
And their families.
We love honesty until it's inconvenient for us. And this was honest.
Oh, you're going to double down and say it was honest.
Absolutely.
Okay. The sports world was rocked a little bit by Jim Tressel admitting that he had prior knowledge of the memorabilia gate at Ohio State involving Terrell Pryor and other big-name Ohio State football players. Is his suspension, now 5 games, too harsh, or is it too lenient?
It is way too lenient.
The season? What are you suggesting?
If you look at things that like Bruce Pearl did, if you look at other coaches that have lost their jobs for recruiting violations, for this, for that, for knowing that players have shaved points in the past, this is something that he lied and he knew about it, and then he lied about not knowing about it, and then once
he's Barry Bonds.
And then once he's caught, he goes, "Oh yeah, I should get the same suspension as my players because that's what this guy said, and that guy said, and the reporters are saying." It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. He should be suspended for
the 2-game suspension was an absolute joke.
Yeah, he should be suspended at least 5 games, maybe more. And the 2 games are against lollipop teams.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Lollipop teams. There you go.
Teams.
Below.
I mean, you have to suspend them from the beginning of the season, whatever their schedule is.
I mean, do conference schedule like Bruce Pearl.
Yeah, how about the first 2 conference games?
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, the 2 games was a little bit lenient. I do like the fact that he picked up and took the 5-game suspension under himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he did lie. He shouldn't have, or he should have known where this is. I want him to say, this will never happen, and hope that it will never happen again, but you can never.
At this point, it can't happen.
It just becomes offensive when people say things like, oh, well, my email box is very full. I get a lot of emails every day. Well, if someone sends you an email that says your players are in trouble, I don't think that's the one you throw in the trash bin. I mean, it's
you
just,
still have to read them.
Yeah, it's really a huge double standard. I think that other coaches at lesser schools would get in bigger trouble. They're afraid to suspend him because of their fan base and their boosters. And
is his reputation tarnished forever? Or we forget
absolutely
about?
Not. No.
I was saying, are we going to forget about this like 3 or 4 years
about
ago?
it.
If you asked me who the last 5 coaches to get suspended were, I couldn't even tell you because
Okay.
it's just the culture of it. You apologize. You have a nice press conference on ESPN.
Alex Rodriguez. Is that what's going to happen? So we're just gonna forget it.
What did he do? Alex Rodriguez.
He apologized for steroid use, and then it's all
steroids?
over. Oh, too soon.
Oh,
Too soon. I don't know. That's a tough one. I think you took an interesting tack, doubling down on Jalen Rose's Uncle Tom comment. I think you look at it fairly objectively to say that he has tried to clarify his comments, but I think if you look at the reaction it still drew from Grant Hill and Elton Brand, who surely have a relationship with Jalen Rose, that's you have to look at the impact it had on those players and their families. And Grant Hill addressed that when in his response to it. The 5-game suspension, I think we generally agree that it was a really, really, really dumb thing to do. So I think that was kind of a wash. But on the Jalen Rose segment, I think you make the correct points that it was just it might have been true, but it wasn't the thing to say. I think that was the correct point there. 2-1 to Andrew, and hanging on by a thread, Austin heading into baseball. It's baseball season. We're all excited about it. There's a few big players that are on the DL to start the season. Who is going to be missed the most?
Even though he is so inconsistent and a circus every time he goes out there, I think Brad Lidge might actually be the biggest problem to start off the season.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm really going big here.
Yeah.
And that's because the Phillies bullpen is structured in a way that Madsen is a great 8th inning guy. Contreras is a great long man in the bullpen, 2-3 innings. And when you start messing with it, especially at the beginning of the season, people are trying to define their roles. It becomes difficult for the team. And, Lidge bounced back somewhat last season. I think that he is, the team is especially good enough where there's not going to be as much pressure on him. And this might be a really good season for Lidge. And I just think that when you miss the first 15 games, that's when people are starting to get acclimated. You're behind the curve the whole time. It might be a little difficult for him.
I was thinking it would actually be a different Philly. Is it Chase Utley?
Yeah, I have Chase Utley. I mean, I agree. Lidge is going to hurt. But especially this season where they have such depth in the starting rotation, you might think they might save a little games from him having to save. But yeah, I do have Chase Utley. We still don't know what the diagnosis is with him, how long he's going to be out, if this is a career-threatening injury. And he's just been going on this downhill injury slope the last few years. And especially because now they really don't have an option. They can go out and get anyone. They got Louis Castile for,
but then they cut him.
And then they cut him.
Yep.
They're going to have a prospect, a guy from the minor league system starting at second baseman.
Yeah, I was going to say, if there's any questions on that team, it's the lineup.
Chase Utley is great, but I think that the Phillies lineup is good enough to get by for the time being.
It's not as good as it has been in years past.
He was, I was saying he was gone a few years ago in 2007. He was gone half the season. I think they could have dealt with him because Ryan Howard's putting up more production. These guys,
2 years ago,
I really don't like the concept, they're getting, they're already so old, they're not going to put up anything. But it is a little true with people like Ibanez might not have the greatest season of his career. And you look around, they really chase out
the Phillies bullpen has always been the most, I don't know the exact word is, problematic, but they've always been a little worried about their bullpen, and this.
So it's not like it's not like teams know they're done.
At the beginning of the season, it's almost a wash. I feel like as far as the games go, most teams go
count just the same.
I'm saying teams usually for the first 15, 20 games, you're not really getting a lot.
You're getting a feel.
You see them a lot. You see a lot of 12 and 8s, 11 and 9, and that's fine. The season, as crazy as it seems, come back to me after the All-Star break. That's when the season begins to really start. And I think that your bullpen needs to be solidified in the beginning of the season and find out what your pieces are, and if you need to go out and dip into different areas to find out what your bullpen is going to look like.
depth of the rotation. At the beginning of the season, I don't think not as many games as that. You see 12-8s, more like 3-1s and lower games because people aren't in the rhythm of swinging.
I'm talking about records, not the scores of the games.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I was confused on that too.
Yeah, I was a little confused. But I really think you look at that team, yes, Lidge is a problem, but there is a bigger problem there, and that is Utley, and that is that middle of that rotation, that third spot. That is the power and the average is going to give it, and also losing defensively. You know, Utley is a. I mean, originally he wasn't a good
I wouldn't say
defensive
that
player.
His value over replacement, as we like to.
In baseball
we
terms.
love that stat, but I don't think that it's gonna kill the team.
The last year we had Buster Posey, Jason Heyward, a good crop of young guys in baseball last season. Who do we see this season as like the big prospect that we expect to see at some point this season launch onto like the star MLB scene?
I mean, I'm going to stick with the Phillies again. Dominic Brown. I want to see what's going to happen. I mean, he's going to be in that platoon. He's on the DL right now. He's going to be in that platoon in right field. He's going to have his shot at the, had the whole offseason with the Major League Club. And he's going to have his shot to show what potential he has. I mean, this guy was hitting 330s in the minors, came up and pretty much did nothing besides, a few RBIs.
Dominic Brown is hurt. He had a rough spring training. I think the Phillies are going to be very safe with him. I'm going to stay in hometown. I think Wilson Ramos, if he comes up for the Nationals, could be a really, they really, really, really do not want Pudge Rodriguez to be the everyday catcher anymore. I think that they're ready to, they're really able and willing to bring him up. Outside chance, Bryce Harper. We'd love to see, Bryce come in and get a couple at bats. I think he's a September guy, maybe.
So you're saying there's no more Phillies that we could talk about there?
Sorry, I'm
sorry.
I
was hoping there would be another.
I miss Will.
We had to go.
I miss Will Nieves.
Will Nieves
last year for the
Nats.
Nats.
No, Will
it's
Ramos.
Wilson
Ramos. I think that's actually a really, really good choice. I think Dominic. I wouldn't say that he had his shot last year by any means, but he disappointed. I think a lot of people last season. So I don't expect nearly as much as I think he was hyped for out of him this season. If he does it, I mean, I wouldn't be that surprised, but I'm not expecting as much. Wilson Ramos is a guy that could be an impact player, and he's going to get mentored by Pudge, which is what the Nationals are really hoping for. So I think that is actually a good pick there, and a guy who will likely come up this season and make an impact. In terms of guys that are going to be missed, I agree that it's Chase Utley, but I think you make some good points about the Phillies bullpen. That it's not a shutdown situation, and so this could cost them some games. Whereas Chase Utley, I mean, the lineup is not as great as it has been, but it's good. But I think that the Brad Lidge point, just because I was anticipating, and I think you defended it well, you get the segment, and that'll send us to a decisive fifth segment here on Unstoppable. GW basketball is the topic. A kind of a season in review look. How do we think the season went? Do we look at it as a good season or disappointing season? Austin.
First round A-10 exit, no postseason, by choice or by selection.
By choice.
By choice. I'd still say that the season was a success because you saw guys really develop, you saw confidence building, you saw real rotation developing, and on paper next year we look like we're going to be very, very competitive. Exactly. I think that it's easy to jump to a conclusion and say, oh, this is a bad season, but look at the last couple of years. We have been really uncompetitive, and even sneaking into the CBI last year, we felt confident enough in ourselves to say, we're not going to, this isn't good enough. Teaching the players, this isn't good enough. We need to go and we need to get better this offseason so that next year we're going to be in the NIT or the tournament. It's all about a culture, and I think the culture has started making a change.
What do you think? Good season,
bad season? I don't know how much
of
a
success. Ending, right?
What I thought about when I was looking at this question is it was an acceptable season. I think coming in, I mean, the loss of Lasan Hurd, and everyone forgets about Hollis, our leading scorer, also graduated. So they came in, the first few games they had a lot of fluke losses. They shouldn't have lost against Navy, one of the worst teams in the country, and they weren't clicking. But I think it's acceptable. It's good because of the way it turned out, because of the leadership we saw in Tony and how he came up from the last season. Averaging about 6 points per game more. So at the end, but that loss against St. Joe's just really, I think, hurts this from being a good season, a success, because they needed Hobbs would have been safe at GW if they had won that game.
Listen,
and
I still think he's safe.
I still think he's safe.
I think he's
I
safe,
think if
but
you win
it
that
would not
game,
have hurt.
you win
I mean,
that game.
if Bozeman hasn't
Listen,
been,
you win that game, you go to Atlantic City.
You go to Atlantic
and
City,
it's fine. It's
and then
looking
you
great for
hang
next
around.
year.
Maybe you win a game, and you don't learn anything. You gotta hit rock bottom before you can come back to the top, and I think that's what this team
they hit
did.
rock bottom a few years
They
ago.
did,
You
2
see,
years ago.
no,
They
last year they
listen, I
won
think
16 games. This year we had higher expectations. We won one more game, and it was on eventual growth in the
Our conference schedule was
A10.
so much better,
The A10 was down this year.
Yeah, it was.
Besides the top, Xavier, Temple, which are always at the top. But yeah, all the teams from last year, Charlotte, SLU, that won 20 games, were in the top of the A10, were down, and that may have contributed to our, factor, our win,
A10 record.
a higher A10 record. But that loss with St. Joe's at home, not going to Atlantic City, which is the next step. We went to the CBI last year.
I think this is more of an eye-opener than you think, and I think this is going to fuel the team more than you think, because the guys that are going to be returning, Tony Taylor, when there's no postseason play, it's different than going to a tournament like the CBI. When you get, not making the A10 tournament, it stinks, but I think that it's almost like, oh, we had a terrible season, we'll get it next year. When you're in the A10 tournament and you're supposed to win for the first time in a long time, and you lose, that is a big difference, and that really pushes you.
I agree. They shouldn't have accepted the CBI bid, whatever they got. Hobbs, blew that game. It was a bad game to begin with.
That was our CBI game. That was our postseason home game.
Yeah, so I can't say that it's going to be a success. It was a great season by the way it ended, by that home loss where we were so favored.
Heavily favored.
Listen, compared to college football, where you can end the season on a win, only one team does every single year.
It's not college football.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, no, that's what he's saying is that
every team can win in their bowl game, and you can ride off into the sunset. And say,
college basketball, everyone ends with a loss.
Everyone ends with a loss.
Yeah.
So you got to look at it objectively.
Okay. So the Tim Johnson and Chris Fitzgerald players that were both on the outside this season both announced that they will be leaving GW and pursuing their education elsewhere. Is it a huge problem?
No, they were not really rotation players. They clearly were not happy here. I think that you look at the guys that are returning, and there's not going to be a lot of minutes for them. So all the power to them.
What do you think?
I think not really big loss. I mean, there's something. TJ, I don't know if there was attitude issues with that. I like that. Hopefully, Hobbs' future recruits don't have that problem, because he has a problem with a lot of guys being kicked off, not academically eligible.
All right. Okay.
And
I think that's a good point. Well, I've got a decision to make in this fifth decisive segment here on Unstoppable. I think you make the correct point that it really kind of came to a crash ending, but I think you make the point that it's an eye opener. It really hurts the team a bit, and losing the two players. I think you're right. It'll make a difference, but won't make a huge difference. They weren't really in the rotation. I'd have to say that you look at it as a case of the A10 being down. I'd say that was a good argument to make, because the conference was worse, so that might have inflated our record in the conference a little bit. So I think that's a good objective way of looking at it. And I think that gives you the fifth segment, your third of the day, and a win for Andrew on Unstoppable. Not April Fools, but a win for Andrew on this edition of Unstoppable. It was a good fight from Austin today. That was the toughest segment to award. Headed on to Rapid Fire as we wrap up this week's edition of Unstoppable. Should Jabari come back and fill in for one of those scholarship spots that's being lost with Tim Johnson, Chris Fitzgerald?
I think yes, because it's always good having seniors on the team. It's always having guys that can block shots, rebound, and know the system already.
What do you think?
I mean, I don't know if he has plans to go already. I mean, it's kind of a big shock to have him coming back. I think Hobbs should use a scholarship, get a point guard this year, Tony Taylor's heir, start looking at that, and then maybe include it for the year after.
Okay. It was reported last week that the MLS is on its way to surpassing the NHL in popularity in terms of TV ratings and attendance and market share. Are you buying it?
Yeah, I think it makes absolute sense. Hockey, Canada, U.S., and then Northern Europe, Russia, soccer's worldwide sports. Only makes sense that we will continue to go up
to grow it as a sport,
to grow as a sport.
I think that it's going to be a continuing trend, a disappointing trend to that, because hockey's a good sport. It's really,
Hockey's a good sport.
Hockey's a great sport. Playoff hockey, I think, is I'll say it, the best playoffs.
It's the best playoffs, other than maybe March Madness.
I mean, it's disappointing, but it's the nature of the beast.
Okay. I guess a Tiger question. We haven't talked Tiger in a while. Would you say that people are rooting for Tiger to win his first tournament since the whole Tiger Gate, or are they rooting for him to keep failing?
Oh, rooting for him to keep failing.
Rooting for him to keep failing.
Because then we're going to have ESPN coverage, and we're going to have a montage that's going to be Tiger's back, but he's not really. He's just like everyone else now.
I want to see him win at this point. I think everyone was rooting for him to fail, and then they figured. I think people were rooting for him to fail, and then figured, oh well, eventually
he's a human being.
Win.
Maybe
I don't know.
I think he should have been back by now.
I'd like to see him get off the schneid. And should the Cowboys be worried about Des Bryant's off-the-field shenanigans?
If Deion Sanders cannot get through to a guy like that,
wow.
and he has $600,000 in jewelry debt. It's a little cause for concern.
Yeah.
For your star wide receiver.
He had such an impressive
with
rookie
a big star on his helmet.
And he has plenty of money to not be taking jewelry.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Yeah,
either.
I don't
Who
know.
steals jewelry when they're that rich?
Attitude adjustment.
That's just crazy. All right, well, that wraps us up for this edition of Unstoppable here on GWTV. Stay tuned to Channel 61 for lots more great programming. I'm your host, Chris Geissler, for Austin and Andrew. We'll see you back here next time here on Unstoppable.